Fiji Water has recalled nearly 2 million bottles due to contamination with manganese and bacteria.
If I told you that the bottled water sitting in your fridge right now could send you to the hospital or cause cancer, would you keep drinking it? Right now, there's probably bottled water in your fridge. Maybe you grabbed a case at Costco last week. Maybe your kids took a bottle to school this morning. You trust it because, well, it's water. How dangerous could it be? But in 2024 alone, the FDA recalled over 2 million bottles because they were contaminated. And these weren't sketchy off-brand waters. These are names you recognize. Brands your family drinks every single day. That's why I'm exposing 10 toxic bottled water brands you should never touch after today. And because I'm not just here to scare you, I'm giving you 4 safer alternatives that have actually earned their place in your fridge. Let's get into it, starting with a brand you already know. Number 10, Fiji Water. You know the brand. The square bottle, the tropical flower on the label, the whole untouched by man marketing angle. Fiji has built an empire on the idea that their water comes from some pristine underground aquifer in the middle of the South Pacific, far away from pollution and civilization. That's the image they sell. But in July 2024, Fiji had to recall nearly 2 million bottles because the FDA found something they definitely weren't advertising. Elevated levels of manganese in 3 different strains of bacteria. Now, manganese sounds harmless until you learn that overexposure can cause neurological symptoms that look a lot like Parkinson's disease. Tremors, difficulty walking, cognitive issues, and we're not talking about one bad batch from one random warehouse. The recall covered bottles with production dates spanning 2 separate periods in November 2023, which tells you this wasn't a fluke. This was a systemic problem in their production line. And to make this even worse, while Fiji scrambled to pull bottles off Amazon, they kept selling internationally without the same level of transparency. So if you've been paying $3 a bottle thinking you're getting the cleanest water on Earth, you've been paying for marketing, not safety. At least Fiji warns you when something goes wrong. This next brand literally poisoned people and tried to keep selling. Number 9. Real Water. Now, if you lived in Las Vegas between 2020 and 2021, you might remember the headlines. Multiple people, including children, were hospitalized with acute non-viral hepatitis. That's liver failure. These weren't people with pre-existing conditions. They were healthy individuals who started experiencing fever, nausea, jaundice, and abdominal pain out of nowhere. Doctors were baffled until they found the common thread. They were all drinking Real Water, an alkaline water brand that marketed itself as a detox product that could balance your body's pH and flush out toxins. The irony is almost too dark to believe. The FDA had to step in with a Class Y recall, which is the most serious level of recalls and is reserved for products that can cause serious injury or death. And then the investigation revealed something even more disturbing. The water may have contained hydrazine, a chemical used in rocket fuel. By 2021, Real Water had shut down completely, filed for bankruptcy, and families who were affected filed lawsuits. In one case alone, a jury awarded victims over $8 billion in damages. Let me repeat that. $8 billion. That's how catastrophic this was. So if you ever see Real Water still sitting on a shelf somewhere, run. Real Water is bad enough, but what about a brand that has an almost cult-like following, yet selling highly contaminated bottled water? Number 8. Topo Chico. I hate to break it to you, but Topo Chico has some serious problems. Back in 2020, Consumer Reports tested dozens of sparkling waters for PFAS contamination. Those are the forever chemicals that don't break down in your body or the environment, and they've been linked to cancer, thyroid disease, and immune suppression. Out of every brand tested, Topo Chico had the highest levels. We're talking 9.7 parts per trillion. Now, Coca-Cola, which owns Topo Chico, did reduce those levels to 3.9 parts per trillion by 2021. But here's the thing. The EPA has since said that there is no safe level of certain PFAS. 0. Which means even that reduced number is still a risk if you're drinking it regularly. And it didn't stop there. In 2025, Topo Chico had to issue another recall, this time at Costco because bottles tested positive for Pseudomonas bacteria. That's a germ that can cause infections, especially in people with weakened immune systems. So now we've got forever chemicals and bacteria in the same brand. I don't care how trendy the glass bottles look, or how many influencers posted on Instagram. 2 contamination issues in 5 years is too many. Number 7. Waiakea Hawaiian Volcanic Water. This brand screams premium. The sleek blue bottle, the volcanic rock imagery, the pitch that the water is naturally filtered through thousands of feet of porous lava rock in Hawaii. People pay $3 or more per bottle thinking they're getting the purest water on the planet. So imagine opening your expensive bottle of Waiakea and seeing particles floating inside. That's exactly what happened in November 2023. The company had to recall more than 3,800 cases after customers started complaining about visible contamination. The FDA classified it as a Class 2 recall, which means there's a chance of temporary or reversible health consequences. But here's what bothers me. Waiakea never actually disclosed what those particles were. Was it sediment, plastic, mold? We still don't know. And to make it worse, the FDA followed up in 2024 with a warning letter citing concerns about how their facility was being operated. If a company can't even keep visible debris out of their bottles, what else are they missing? For a brand that positions itself as alkaline, sustainable, and pure, that's a trust violation I can't overlook. You shouldn't either. Before we get to the next brand, if you're finding this video helpful and you want to stay informed about what's really in your food and drinks, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. I post videos like this regularly because you deserve to know what you're putting in your body. Also, tell me in the comments, which bottled water brands do you drink often? Alright, let's keep going. Number 6. Niagara Bottling. This might surprise you, especially if you've never heard of Niagara Bottling. That's because they don't sell water under their own name. They're one of the biggest private label suppliers in the country, which means they bottle water for dozens of store brands. Acme, ShopRite, 7-Eleven, Wegmans, Big Y, you name it. The label changes, but it's all coming from the same facilities. And in 2015, one of those facilities in Pennsylvania had a spring source test positive for E. coli. That triggered a massive recall across 14 brands in 30 states. E. coli doesn't just cause an upset stomach. It can cause severe diarrhea, kidney failure, and in extreme cases, death. Now, Niagara said that no contaminated bottles actually made it to shelves, but regulators weren't willing to take that risk, which is why they pulled everything produced between June 10th and 18th. The problem is, most people had no idea their store brand water was connected to this recall because the names on the labels were all different. And here's an even bigger issue. When you're buying the cheapest water on the shelf, you're probably getting water bottled by Niagara or a company just like them, where the priority is volume, not safety. That's a gamble I'm not willing to take. Number 5. Starkey Spring Water. This brand is Whole Foods' house brand. And yes, I know. You shop at Whole Foods specifically because you think the standards are higher. You're paying more because you expect better. So it's especially frustrating that Starkey has been recalled multiple times for arsenic contamination. In 2016 and 2017, the company had to pull more than 2,000 cases off shelves after tests showed arsenic levels hitting 11.7 to 12 parts per billion. The federal limit is 10. And before you think that's a small difference, let me put this in perspective. Arsenic is one of the most toxic elements on Earth. Chronic exposure, even at low levels, increases your risk of cancer, cardiovascular disease, and developmental problems in children. Studies have even linked it to lower IQ scores. Then in 2019 and 2020, Consumer Reports tested Starkey again and found levels still hovering between 9.5 and 10.1 parts per billion. That's 3 times higher than most other bottled waters on the market. So this isn't a one-time mistake, this is a pattern. And Whole Foods kept selling it, kept slapping that pristine Idaho spring water label on the bottle, and kept charging premium prices. That's the height of betrayal. Number 4. Peñafiel. Now this one makes me angry because the FDA knew there was a problem for years and did nothing. Peñafiel is a mineral water from Mexico, owned by Keurig Dr. Pepper, and you can find it at Target, Walmart, and most big box stores. In 2019, Consumer Reports tested it and found an average of 17 parts per billion of arsenic. That's 70% above the federal safety limit. Let me say that again, 70%. And here's the part that should enrage you. The FDA had Peñafiel on an import alert since at least 2013, which means they knew this brand had issues for 6 years before it was ever publicly reported. And what was Keurig Dr. Pepper's response? They suspended production but never issued a formal recall. No apology, no transparency, just a quiet pullback and hope people forgot. But I haven't forgotten, and neither should you. Because if you drank Peñafiel regularly during those years, you were consuming arsenic levels that, over time, significantly increase your risk of bladder cancer, lung cancer, and skin lesions. This is a billion-dollar company that knowingly sold contaminated water and got away with it. Number 3, Crystal Geyser Alpine Spring Water. You've seen this brand everywhere. The red and blue mountain logo, the 100% natural spring water claim, the budget-friendly price point. It's positioned as the affordable alternative to brands like Poland Spring or Deer Park. But in 2020, the company behind Crystal Geyser admitted in federal court that they had illegally stored and transported arsenic-contaminated wastewater. We're not talking about a small amount. We're talking about millions of gallons of toxic wastewater left over from their bottling operations in California. They were caught dumping it improperly, trying to hide it, and violating environmental laws for years. The company paid fines, but here's what that tells me. If they're willing to cut corners on handling toxic waste, how much do you think they care about what ends up in your bottle? And this isn't just an environmental issue. Arsenic exposure is cumulative. It builds up in your body over time. So even if the water you drank from Crystal Geyser wasn't directly contaminated, the fact that the company was this careless with arsenic in their operations is enough to make me never trust them again. Number 2, Gerolsteiner Sparkling Water. This one caught me off guard because it's a German brand with a reputation for quality. You see it at Trader Joe's, Whole Foods, and specialty stores, and people pay premium prices because they think European water standards are stricter. But in March 2025, the Consumer Product Safety Commission had to recall 61,500 bottles of Gerolsteiner because the glass bottles were cracking and breaking during normal handling. Not only is this an inconvenience, it's a laceration hazard. People were getting cut. And here's the thing. Glass shards in your water aren't just a physical injury risk. They can also introduce contamination. Once the bottle integrity is compromised, bacteria can get in. The recall covered bottles sold in 14 states between December 2024 and January 2025, which means if you bought Gerolsteiner recently, you need to check your fridge right now. The fact that a brand known for European craftsmanship and quality control had such a widespread manufacturing defect tells you that even the so-called premium brands aren't immune to cutting corners. Number 1. Berkeley Club Beverages, the worst offender on this list. Berkeley Club Beverages, which bottles Berkeley Springs water. In September 2024, this brand was recalled for coliform bacteria contamination. If you don't know what coliforms are, they're indicator organisms. Their presence suggests that fecal matter may have gotten into the water supply. Let that sink in for a second. Fecal contamination in bottled water. The FDA initially reported that over 150,000 bottles were affected, though the company later tried to downplay it by saying only 1,034 bottles were contaminated. But here's the thing. Once you've got coliforms in your production line, it doesn't matter if it's 1,000 bottles or 150,000. It means your sanitation protocols failed. And to make matters worse, Berkeley Springs sells both purified and distilled water. Those are the two categories that are supposed to represent maximum purity. Distilled water goes through a boiling process that's supposed to kill everything. And yet, somehow, fecal bacteria still made it through. This brand was sold in Maryland, Virginia, and West Virginia. And if you bought it, you were drinking water that had failed the most basic safety standard. That's why it's number one. All right, I know that was a lot. And I know it's frustrating to realize that even bottled water, something we've been conditioned to trust as the safer option, can be this dangerous. But not all bottled water is like this. There are brands out there that have consistently clean testing records, transparent sourcing, and no history of recalls or contamination. So let me give you 4 safe alternatives that are actually worth your money. But real quick, if this video just made you side-eye the bottles of water in your fridge, do me a favor. Hit that like button and subscribe so this reaches more people who need to see it. And drop a comment. Have you been drinking any of these brands? Are you going to keep drinking them after what you just heard? I'm genuinely curious. All right, now let's get to the good ones. Number 1, San Pellegrino. This Italian sparkling mineral water has been around for over 600 years, and it's sourced from natural springs in the Italian Alps. What makes San Pellegrino special is that it's naturally carbonated. The bubbles aren't added artificially, they come from the spring itself. It also has one of the highest beneficial mineral contents of any bottled water. 1 liter gives you as much calcium as a glass of milk and more magnesium than most sports drinks. When independent testing looked at PFAS levels, San Pellegrino came back with near non-detectable results, which is exactly what you want. It's sold in glass bottles. The company publishes a full mineral breakdown on every label, and there's no history of recalls or contamination scandals. This is a brand that has earned its reputation over centuries, not through flashy ads, but through consistent quality and safety. Number 2, boxed water is better. Quite a unique name, and this brand stands out because of its packaging. Instead of plastic bottles, they use cartons made of 75% paper from well-managed forests. That alone cuts down on plastic waste and microplastic contamination. But what really matters is what's inside. Boxed water uses an 8-step purification process that removes contaminants, including PFAS. Independent testing has confirmed it's PFAS-free, which puts it ahead of most bottled waters on the market. The company is also transparent about their sourcing and testing, and they've never had a recall. The carton packaging also means there's no risk of plastic leaching, which is a hidden problem with bottled water that sits on shelves for months. If you're looking for a sustainable, safe, and affordable option, this is it. Number 3, Evian. I know what you're thinking. Evian is overpriced, overhyped, and only bought by people trying to look fancy. And yeah, there's some truth to that. But here's the thing. Evian actually backs up its luxury image with science. The water comes from the Cachat Spring in the French Alps, where it's naturally filtered through glacial rock for over 15 years before it's bottled. That natural filtration process gives it a high mineral content and removes impurities without the need for heavy chemical treatment. Evian has consistently tested clean for PFAS and heavy metals, and the company publishes detailed water analysis reports online, which is more transparency than most US brands will ever give you. They've also never had a recall or contamination incident, so while the price tag might make you wince, you're actually getting what you pay for. This is one of the few luxury waters where the reputation is earned, not just marketed. Number 4, Mountain Valley Spring Water. This brand has been around since 1871. That's over 150 years, and in all that time, they've never had a recall. The water comes from a single source in the Waiakea Mountains of Arkansas, and it's bottled right there at the spring. No cross-contamination from different facilities. No distribution nightmares. Just water from the source to the bottle. Independent testing has shown non-detectable levels of PFAS, and because Mountain Valley is sold in glass bottles, you're not dealing with the microplastic contamination issues you get with cheaper brands. It also has a natural mineral content, calcium, magnesium, potassium, which gives it a crisp, clean taste. Yes, it's more expensive than a case of store-brand water, but you're paying for transparency, safety, and a track record that speaks for itself. And there you have it, 10 bottled water brands, contamination scandals, recalls, and violations that should never have happened, and 4 that have actually earned their spot in your fridge. Look, this video isn't to scare you. I made it because you deserve to know what you're drinking. These companies bank on you trusting the label without asking questions. But when it comes to your family's health, trust isn't enough. You need proof. And half these brands have already shown you they can't deliver it. So check your fridge right now. If any of those 10 brands are sitting in there, you know what to do. Throw them out, then drop a comment. Tell me, which one shocked you the most? The fecal bacteria? The arsenic? The brand that poisoned people and kept selling? I want to know. And if this just saved you from drinking contaminated water, share it. Send it to someone you care about. And if you're not subscribed yet, hit that button so you don't miss the next video exposing the food industry. Stay safe, and I'll see you in the next one.